I play Matt, who is the brother to Riley, our sort of unreliable protagonist. And Matt is the angel on her shoulder, the sort of compass that she's guided to throughout the movie. He's a caring brother who goes missing pretty early on.
My name is Odessa Zion, and I play Riley. Um, Riley is another protagonist in the story, who really just needs something to grip onto in her life, and she's an addict and she's drawn to shiny objects. So that means if that's Trevor, if that's the pills that she's taking, or the box, the puzzle box, um, she doesn't feel good. She's anxious and restless, and she does anything to take that edge off. Um, she's just a crazy mess, and it leads her to this crazy mess of a journey into unlocking the gates to hell, and it's all to find her brother.
Yeah, I was familiar with the original Hellraiser. I watched it when I was 9 years old. Um, it's been an opportunity to be in this one because it's led me to understand a lot of the like things that confused and disturbed me way back when. And horror is, I think, one of the best genres. And it's been really fun to be a part of that and play within that, not just always be a witness to it.
Yes, I've always been a fan of horror films, thrillers. I like thrillers more. I want it to really mess with me. But I was a fan of Hellraiser before, not as young as 9, because I don't think I knew what it was at 9. I wish that would have been awesome. But yeah, I came to know it a little bit later in my life, maybe like 14, 15, something like that. And then once I was able to be a part of it, I really went in and was able to watch the rest of the movies, which is crazy that there have been 10. And yeah, I'm just grateful to be a part of it, and I hope that people enjoy it.
I wanted to be a part of this project when I read that David Bruckner was directing it. I've been a fan of his other movies, and I think he's just a stylish, like specific director when it comes to horror, which I think is what makes or breaks movies within the genre. I also thought like that finally there's a movie steeped in this world that Clive Barker created, and Clive Barker being this gay man who was like a hustler back in the 70s and was really writing from that place, that within the world there's finally like representation around that, and very excited to be a part of it.
It was sitting in my inbox for a little bit because it was labeled as the box. It wasn't called Hellraiser, so I didn't know what it was. And then when I got I like called my people, was like, hey guys, do I have anything in right now? And they're like, yeah, well, you could do this one. This one's been in your inbox for a while. And I was like, okay, like let me read the sides. And I read the sides, and then I found out that it was Hellraiser, and the sides were so good. It wasn't like uh it didn't feel cheesy. It was like the audition scene was the scene where we're screaming at each other, so it felt like, oh my god, this could be like a really cool real horror movie that's also Hellraiser. So, and David Bruckner, like I didn't even realize that I loved his stuff until I found out that he directed The Ritual, and I was like, that was you. You're so like, yes, please cast me. So he's amazing. Uh David Bruckner was a very I mean, he's an incredible director, and I feel like we had a good understanding for each other. I've also never seen a more prepared director. I don't think I've worked with someone like that prepared for before. Like every little detail, anything that I was concerned about, or I felt like I'm like, am I getting this right? He's like, yeah. Because like if you look at this, and then before this happened, then it's just like he's very hands-on. And I mean, he was so good. There was one scene where we did a pickup, and I think Jamie had already wrapped. So he was reading for Pinhead, and um he would be directing and reading the lines at the same time. So she's like, "Your brother waits for you. Wouldn't you like to know? Turn!" And then go through the whole thing. He was really hands-on, and yeah, I appreciate him a lot. He was amazing.
Yeah, David is like I mean, he's so excited by horror and so specific as to what it means in the grand scheme of what the audience is receiving and taking away from the movie. And just as an actor, I mean, I love being directed. Getting free reign sometimes is the most like terrifying, uninspiring effect. And he really finds the middle ground and asks you what you want, and then is very clear about what he wants. And it was never hard with him.
Shooting in Belgrade was, I mean, it was, I really had a fun time. I loved filming there. We got to film at the White Palace, and it was an actual uh it was located in the royal compound is where it was. So that was like amazing. We got to shoot at these crazy locations, and shooting in Serbia, it was beautiful. It was really hot. It was really beautiful though. And yeah, Jason, who played the Chatterer, would take us around to these different restaurants that he would find. Really, really good guy to travel with, because he would find the best restaurants, and took us to the fortress. Yeah, I loved Serbia. I would love to go back there someday.
Yeah, Belgrade was really cool. I think the people were really excited to have a couple movies shooting there at once. And honestly, some of the best gelato I've ever eaten was in Belgrade.
Hellraiser follows Riley, who is a young woman struggling with addiction, who finds a mysterious and ancient puzzle box that, should you solve it, opens doors you may not want to open. And soon she's on a quest of sorts to retrieve someone that she loves, and she'll have to come in contact with the sadistic but beautiful Cenobites and contend with all their desires.
This film's version of the priest is now a woman, which takes the burden off the audience of trying to compare the performance, to Doug Bradley's iconic portrayal of this character, lovingly known by the fans as Pinhead. There's a sensuality to her, there's a grace, there's a beauty, and a hunger and a desire that you will see as she navigates this world and encounters these different characters who have come into contact with this mysterious puzzle box and are trying to solve it through a myriad of tasks and games that the priest presents to them.
Why was I interested in directing a new version of Hellraiser? I'm such a fan of the franchise. I think anybody who loves the Hellraiser movies and Hellraiser literature could say that this is a big, vast world to play in. There's so much that you can do with Hellraiser. So anything that keeps the conversation going, anything that opens the box and takes us back into the labyrinth, I think is, as a fan, a journey that I want to go on. As a filmmaker, it's a really, really unique challenge. Hellraiser is dense, it's complex, it's layered, it explores many themes of the interior and the exterior. It's absolutely terrifying and visceral. but it's also surreal. And so look, as a crafts person of film, it's absolutely a joy to work on, and an honor to be a part of. So I'm just happy that I had the opportunity to do it. Clive was a creative producer on the film, so he was involved in all manner of process and in the development and the realization of this, and in the edit, post production, and he was very generous with his time. And being the inventor, the writer of Hellbound Heart, the director of the first film, producer of several Hellraiser films. He knows the world like no one else. It's uniquely his vision. And yet he was very supportive of the idea that this was a new group of artists and that they were going to respond to the material in their own way, and that it was ripe for some level of reinvention. We wanted to capture the spirit of the original movies, but also, be open to new ideas where they presented themselves. And so he fully embraced that. As an artist, he's very collaborative and wants to find common ground, shared obsessions, as he says. He would call me a lot in prep, and we would talk through passages of the old book. We would talk about elements of the script that worked, areas that could use more fleshing out. He always met me with this story. His advice was always to tell the story that was before us, and not to try to emulate what he had done before. And as a producer, he can be challenging at times, and he knows when to push us. And so I'm really grateful of the time and collaboration that I got to spend with him. And he's a joy to work with. Every conversation with him is a marvel.
I watched the original the night before I taped my audition. And I was completely taken with how sexy and just beautiful and terrifying this world that Clive had created was. And that made me want to audition more. And then reading the script, it was so good. I mean, I remember thinking when I read the script, oh, wow, like this is good and this is going to look good. Like if they can really do what they've written, like, wow, this is going to be really, really, really good. And I wanted, the second that I met David in the callback, I knew that I wanted to work with him. And if it wasn't going to be on this, I was going to petition him to work on anything that he was going to do because it was so much fun. I mean, he was everything that I want in a director as an actor. I mean, he gave such, interesting, fun direction and ideas that I hadn't thought of what to do, and with volume and with stillness and just in the callback. And then, then once I got to Serbia and we started having Zooms and talking about, the intention behind different scenes and what the priest wanted and what her goals were, with different characters and different scenes, he was so generous, like with his direction and with his ideas and with everything that he had thought of that he wanted. And then everything that I had and my well of emotion, it all just kind of like meshed together, and we gelled, and and we did what we did, and I just hope that people liked it.
My biggest challenges in making this film, on one hand, we had to find how to pay the proper homage to the movies that had come before us, and but also open this up for new audiences. A lot of that meant getting lost in our own obsessions that were Hellraiser related and following all the things that we thought were amazing about Hellraiser. I'll also say Hellraiser is quite a logistical feat in horror filmmaking. I joke it could have been a person in a mask with a knife, but it's not. They're interdimensional BDSM demons that come at you from an endless labyrinth and shoot chains at you. I mean, it's the gags are insanely complicated and require a lot of planning. And Hellraiser's always been known for its practical effects. So you got to do it for real, and that's very much the spirit of the franchise. So I think I speak for all of the crafts people in the film that it's just a challenge to take on. And then I think for the actors, it's an enormous leap of faith, and I think it's you're always out on a limb when you're doing horror, because you're dealing with very, very intense ideas. You're dealing with a lot of imagination. Sometimes it can seem quite absurd when you're on set what you're working with. But for the performances to run with what we were doing and to do it, with sheer abandon is what the movie needed. And it's a big testament to Jamie's performance, as the priest. It takes a lot of courage to put on that suit and to lead the other Cenobites and to do it with confidence and grace. And I think she was an example to all of us on set. And when the priest comes on set, you can hear a hush fall over the crew. It's like her majesty is present, and you better offer her, the proper respect, or things could go horribly wrong. So yeah, Hellraiser's challenging, but it's incredibly rewarding franchise. I can't think of anything else like it.
The makeup process was intense. I've never done prosthetics before, but I was in such good hands with the Russells and their entire team. Sierra Russell was like my key. She would do me every single day, and Josh was always there, gluing all the pins on individually to the face piece while the head was coming on. But the process, depending on the day, depending on how many other Cenobites were working that day, or how many practical effects were happening. For example, Bourne's loom. The makeup could take anywhere from 4.5 to 6 hours. If we could just focus and it was just me, we could do 4.5. But if they had to step away, or if there was, if they were shorthanded that day, up to 6. It was I had to be incredibly patient. I had to find a thing in myself that I didn't know existed. So I had to just learn to sort of, meditate and relax and just let this incredible team of people practice their craft on me, every day that I would film. And then once I was in it, once the neck piece went on, I was in it for the duration of that filming day, because it was too jarring to go in and out of it. So I would go in it and stay, and I would stay in it for the duration of filming. And I would a trick that I learned was to just isolate myself, so I wouldn't be in the same sort of green room or holding as anybody else. I would try to find a corner and just sit and face a wall, or just be with Sierra. She was the only person that I would sort of giggle with, if I ever did need like a break or a sip of a Schweppes bitter lemon. She was always there. She was the only one that I would let come over to me when I wasn't filming, to touch me and talk to me, because it was a lot. And then to take it all off, was another 30 minutes to an hour. Just again, depending on how many people I had, taking off the hands, the face, the whole thing, So it's like, if I could have someone on each hand and the face, 30 minutes. But if it was just 1 or 2 people, it could take up to an hour, But stripping that suit off at the end of the day was always a huge relief. Once the suit was off, because it's incredibly restricting, especially across, you couldn't you couldn't expand into it. I couldn't take a full breath. So once the suit would come off, I was fine. And then it was just a lot of solvents and oils to remove everything.
Well, his name is Voight. He's a billionaire who, for all of his life, he was searching for something more. He's very ungrateful character. He's the guy who was never happy with, no matter how much he had, was always searching for some new experience, for some new feeling, but talking more about the sexual and more like bodily experiences. And he feels tired of everything. He feels like that he needs something more. And that's when in his life he comes across somebody's research about the box, and he finds the box, and he believes that this is the ultimate holy grail of otherworldly experiences. It's something that he can actually renew himself and do something that nobody have ever done before him. And of course, he doesn't know what's he getting himself into, and he really ends up having a bad end of the deal. And then we catch him in kind of like the movie starts kind of really heating up when we realize that he is trying to open the box again because he's trying to get outside of this predicament that he is in. So he's basically is going to commit the same mistake, but hoping for the better results. He's trying to outsmart these Cenobites, and he builds this mansion and everything around it. He builds the cage for them, but is it going to be successful or not? We'll see that in the movie.
So the character that I'm playing in the film is Serena. Serena is a woman that was working for Voight, and she was providing him with whatever his needs were, until she maybe realized the evil side of him that maybe she couldn't cope with. At that time, she turned her back to him. And then she got sick and she went into this nursing home until the box came back to her, because some younger people were searching the story. I mean, Odessa, basically, like that. Riley, the main character of the movie, was searching for what this box was all about, and she found a relationship between her name and Voight's name. She went after her, and when she saw that box, basically, she understood that they are really in danger, and she knew the story of the box, and she knew what the configurations of the box were. So she decided to sacrifice herself for one of them. And she had to face all the Cenobites. Right. I was not really very familiar with the Hellraisers before, because I always rejected horror. I never wanted to watch it because I was getting sick from it. Like sick physically, basically. Like I wouldn't be able to cope really with the fear and like the physicality of it after. And I would stay, like anything that would make me frightened would stay with me for ages after. And it like would make my life really horrible. Like I wouldn't sleep, I would have nightmares. And so like I decided that, like this is not for me. And that was that really. Anybody could tell me the best things about one horror movie, still I would never ever go to see it. And if I ever try, I think I would sit and like while watching, I realize where I would end up, so I would stop. So that even would get me into that fear. Just the thought of being frightened would already start the fear in me, right? So it wasn't really something that I was able to. I mean, physically, I wasn't able to do it. So everything went fine. I've just like lived all my life with that until as an actor, I had the desire to do one, because I thought like that would be really fun, I didn't think it would help me maybe get over it or anything. I just didn't use it as a therapy, process. But I wanted to do it for the fun of doing it. And really, honestly, 1 month after I spoke about it to my representation, so I just got the offer, and it was so much fun, because when I read it, it felt like, wow, what a great idea. But I remember talking to David, and I told him, I never watched anything before. I don't think I will watch anything. And I don't think even I'll watch our movie. I'll do it, but I don't think I'll watch it. I was there really. I just couldn't help it. So like I did the movie, but I got so excited about the work and the process of it that I just decided to watch it, because I almost had all the like all the elements were still in my mind. So like, I know that it was fabricated, for that. So for me, it was easier to watch something I've been part of the doing of it.
Well, honestly, I've never been a huge fan of horror movies, but when I was younger, when I was a teenager, my local video store, there was still VHS tapes. We found this treasure trove of Hellraiser. And I went in the one that was, I believe it was the fourth one, when half the story is actually happening in space. That's why I originally took it from the shelf, because I thought it was a science fiction. And then I saw the one, and then I realized this is franchise. You know, they actually have 3 already made. And that's how I saw the 1, 2, and 3. And what really attracted me to David's film, when we've been discussing, David was mentioning that we're going to be kind of like making almost a little homage to the original one, to the first one. There's not going to be a lot of computer animation, CGI. We're going to try to do as much as possible with practical elements, you know, with when we have chains flying, you know, they're not CGI chains, they're actually real chains. When you see Cenobites and everything on them, they're not lenses are in people's eyes, and the costumes and all those prosthetics and stuff. So it looks so realistic for actors while on set, and also your eye. When you see it in the movie, you realize and you recognize that it's a real thing. There is very, very small amounts of CGI. And I love that. It's going to remind you on that original old movie when they did that kind of visual effects.
That was really great. I mean, one of the most enjoyable processes of work I had was working with David. Because I was so unsure about like the horror aspect of in the business, just he made it sound so great and so much fun, because basically he was so prepared, and he was so meticulous, and he was so like after the details, and he was so prepared to everything that, you know, he just like went with my character, explaining almost every little detail, every little thing, making every little detail become like so important to the story that it made the whole process of work with him just like much more enjoyable and really great fun, really great fun. And I told him, I said, David, whenever you want, I'm there again. I'm ready to go.
A lot of what he said working with David was, when you come on the set, when you talk to the guy, you realize he's prepared. He knows what he's doing. And it's always, for an actor, it's a good sign, because it's a lot about trusting the director, trusting his vision. Because if he's asking you to do something that in the moment you think it might be ridiculous, it might be too much, you need to rely on him that he's not going to embarrass you, that you're going to actually, that this part that maybe is not good, but it's good for the other part of the scene, that he's going to cut it out, and he's going to not let you expose there like a raw nerve. And that was the case with David. You know, you were just able to trust him. And now when I saw the film, it was exactly what we've been talking about, what we've been discussing. And he just has this calm presence on set that creates beautiful work environment. But in the same time, he's a nerve. He's kind of like, you know, he's pushing everybody to give everything from themselves. And it's actually perfect work environment. So I was very, very happy to work with him.
Hey, my name's Adam Faison. I play Colin in the movie Hellraiser, the reimagining. And Colin is a bit of a logical thinker and a voice of reason throughout the movie. And he sort of sets a whole plan into motion to try to help Riley when all hell breaks loose and the box opens up.
Hi, my name is Drew Starkey. I play Trevor in Hellraiser. Trevor is somewhat of an ambiguous kind of figure. He has a lot of odd jobs. Currently, though, he's working as an art handler for some pretty shady characters. But he's also romantically involved with our hero, Riley, in the story. And he's the one who ultimately leads Riley to the first configuration, the puzzle box. And then it all goes batshit crazy. I was familiar with the original Hellraiser. I had seen it when I was probably a little too young. I was about 8 or 9, fully traumatized by the experience. But the the imagery still, I mean, it stuck with me for years and years. So it was great to, start working on this project and kind of, be allowed to revisit those. I love horror. I'm such a fan of horror. And I think especially horror that blends genres really well. Which Hellraiser does. I mean, it's psychological, it's a thriller, elements of sci-fi, slap, it's everything at once. So yeah, very, very happy that we got to be a part of this.
So I was pretty familiar with the movies, the Hellraiser movies beforehand. I had seen him on this AMC Horror Fest when I was younger, and they were fun because they were like, I love horror because it feels kind of like an escape, and sometimes literally, like in this movie, we always trying to escape these crazy little Cenobites. Big Cenobites. They're actually a lot of them. They're very big. But yeah, so I really enjoyed getting to do this because I love horror movies. I think some of my favorites also are like 28 Days Later, Jacob's Ladder, a lot of those ones too. And sort of I like kind of what Drew was saying too. There's this element of getting to blend different genres, especially the sci-fi element. So we get to see a little bit of the lore that's not really explained in the first one. So we get to kind of like get a little window into like what each of the configurations means through the eyes of Riley. The part of this movie that made me excited to be a part of it was, I guess, like all of the action lines and the descriptions when I was reading it. It was so beautiful to see how detailed they all were and how everything just kind of built in the script. Like it was such a fun, quick, like adventure of a read, And then I figured, I was like, if this is as good on the page as it is on screen, I'm fucking excited. So I was like, let's go. So, and also to see just, the character development that they really tried to put into this. You could tell that they didn't just want to kill for sport. They were like, we really want you to invest in these characters.
Yeah, I mean, what drew me, I'd gotten the audition, and I remember I didn't even have the full script, but I remember, getting the sides, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was Ben and Luke really wrote a great story, and David as well, and it was just so fleshed out on the page and so detail oriented. I think they were really focused on not so much an origin story, but really fleshing out the lore and the mythos and the kind of the aura around this Hellraiser world. So that was what was tantalizing. It was it wasn't so niche. It was I thought I was going to reach a lot of people, some wide audiences, and I think original fans of the movie are going to find a lot of things in it that they love, and then I also think new audiences are gonna watch it and gain a lot from it. So, and just the people attached to it. I mean, everybody was attached from the beginning. Was incredible. So I was just excited to work with them.
Being directed by David Bruckner was so fun. He's very collaborative, and he loves ideas and like spitballing thoughts, especially in the beginning process. We had sort of a week of rehearsal and all these tests and stunt things, and he was very collaborative with us, and he's not afraid to kind of get down in the weeds with us and kind of get with us in that level, like of where he kind of wants it to be. And I mean, he knew the world so well, but he was also able to sort of be flexible with us being in it and having our own interpretations. Working with David Bruckner is he's incredibly high energy but patient at the same time. He's so detail oriented. I mean, we got to Belgrade, Serbia to shoot the film about a week before the first shoot day, and we took the time for that week to work through the scripts, discuss background. He showed us storyboards and artwork and ideas for music and his ideas for character. It was like this great gift of a rehearsal time that we got for it.
And yeah, he'll get down, he will get down in the weeds with you. You know, he's like, this is what we gotta, this is how we gotta do it. Like, but and he's hilarious. It's funny because we were shooting during COVID too, so you know, he has the mask on directing you. So I just remember like his eyes, like watching rehearsal and his eyes going back and forth and be like, great, let's shoot it. But yeah, incredible. It just like the biggest, he's incredibly intelligent and just cares a lot. Really take the time to kind of sift through and work through it with you.
The experience of shooting this in Belgrade was a lot of fun for me. I felt like I kind of fully embraced myself as a local. No, I'm not a local, but I was started learning Serbian while I was there because I just wanted to I really love languages, and I kind of wanted to like, you know, experience like, you know, the cuisine and the like different areas. So I would kind of try to like do little day trips before COVID kind of hit and we kind of had to be a little bit more under lockdown. But it was such a fun experience because they're so passionate and like driven, and like the work that they put into this movie was just really amazing to see. Like they all really just came ready and like hungry to just like get down in the trenches, and their ability to like deal with the flora and fauna there is amazing because there'd be like these like murder hornets that would like attack us one day, and like these wild foxes, and they would just like, you know, like snatch them out of the air, like, and you know, shoot them away, and like they'd be like, Mishta, you know, this is nothing, this is whatever, like, you know, this, get used to it, you know, this like is, you know, flower funnel, you know, like this fox not gonna hurt you. So, you know, I like that. So I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I made some everlasting memories with the locals.
Yeah, shooting in Belgrade was really, really incredible. It was such a new, I mean, none of us had been there before. So it's this brand new place, a little bit of culture shock, but like beautiful city. We made it a point to all go out and get some really good food and drink some like really good wine. Yeah, it was amazing. The people there are incredible. Our crew was so resilient. Like I swear, like it would be 4 a.m. and we'd be, you know, on our 4th day of night shoots, and there was just never any complaining. Like they were all just like full steam ahead. But we were, as a cast, like we were all in a new place, and you know, trying to like navigate and get around the city, and it kind of mirrored our own experience, you know, with the characters in the movie too. It's like we're in this completely different world, we're thrown into this situation we know nothing about, and all we had to kind of lean on was like trusting each other, and wine. We relied on a lot of wine. It was really incredible. But yeah, definitely we'll go back. I want to go back to Belgrade for sure. Let's do it.